Even before this podcast, you have been so public facing for a really long time with your books, with social media. What was it like in the beginning, early stages of you deciding to like build your personal brand as opposed to like working more with people behind the scenes, coaching and consulting behind the scenes versus being like, I'm out here. This is what I'm thinking, making videos, doing pictures, I think that's really challenging for a lot of people, but also there's a lot of benefits in just like taking the plunge and being a little vulnerable.
So it's interesting that you ask that because yes, I mean, I was kind of very public when I was making transitions from dentistry to coaching to basically all of the things that I was doing in my voyage of researching for my books, where I definitely shared a lot of it online. And yes, it definitely did come with the pros and the cons because people who knew me in a certain lens, let's just say my old life before I got divorced, or even honestly, a lot of the scrutiny came from some of my close family members. To the point where some of my bad, comments, my troll comments were coming from people I actually either grew up with or knew, or, it's like another cousin or second cousin or a third cousin, like people who didn't appreciate your evolution.
Because they have a fixed image of you in their mind.
1,000%.
You're frozen at the point in which they last interacted with you, or in which
was 20 years old or whatever.
I'm not gonna stop growing from that person I was.
Yeah, and it was, in the beginning, it was like some of the comments I actually remember, it was like, oh wow, like something like, oh, your dad wouldn't be proud of you or something like that. And I knew it was like a particular either cousin or an aunt or something that just had this fixed view. And I was like, oh wow, that's kind of hurtful because I'm like, man, I'm thinking in my head, my dad's like championing me on and his spirit's just like feeling this. And so I think for those of you who are so afraid of what other people will think, yes, it's a true fear. And I want to acknowledge it because absolutely, I had to work through those, and you might get some backlash. I'm not going to say you won't, because we all will experience that. And it is part and parcel of being brave and being vulnerable and being seen. The idea of being seen by other people and the idea that you may not resonate with everybody. Some people may be listening to this and they might just get turned off because they're like, oh, how could you, disrespect your elders or family members or whatever? Like, I've heard it all. And for those of you kind of in that transition right now of like, should I do this? I don't know. Am I going to disrespect people? Especially coming from like cultures of immigrant parents and families where they're like, oh, I don't approve of this. I only know you as a doctor. Like, I still have family members who are asking, do you still practice?
So you're going to go back, right? Like, all this stuff is fun, but
right,
so when are you going to get back?
Right. Aren't you going to see patients again? And I'm like, wait, what? Huh? You don't get it. And you know what? Bless them, because they may never get it.
Yeah.
They're actually operating in their own system of life and their own truth that is truthful to them. It might not be your truth, but it's truthful to them. And I think there's a way that we can respect it and honor it without taking it for ourselves and still honoring our truth. And I think that's what keeps me going every single day. Even if I see a bad comment or something like that, I remember the one or two people right now, all of you who are tuning in, subscribing, listening every week, who are like, yes, I needed to hear this. Like, maybe you are that black sheep or brown sheep of your family. Maybe you are the person that's kind of like, I want to do this, but ooh, am I going to like burn some bridges because of that? And I want to encourage you to like peek into that, see into that. What is it that you're afraid of? What is it that you are trying to avoid? Because we have to think about the people who are hurt by this. They're hurt because perhaps maybe you're triggering something in them that they could never, ever realize for themselves. If you think about our immigrant families, they came here to have a better life. So a lot of it was fueled by struggle, fueled by what they were leaving behind. A lot of times they were leaving behind the only homes they knew in countries that They had to leave, right? So their friends, family members, and then they come here. And a lot of times it was that struggle, right? To get to the American dream. And here we are living our best lives, saying, nope, we don't want to do medicine. We don't want to do law. We don't want to be an engineer or a nurse. And they couldn't even get that opportunity. So how privileged are we that I could even have this conversation, that I could even say, yeah, I'm not going to subscribe to that. And I want to give you permission to do the same. And while some of those comments were hurtful in the past, now I look at it like, you know what? It's actually fueling thousands of other really amazing, positive people who are like, man, you really transformed me. And gosh, because of that, I took my first step into saying this or having that conversation with my mom or disagreeing openly. And my dad was actually okay with it. Right? So the little steps in the moments that we are brave, I think is one of the things that I'm just so grateful for that we can bring on, yes, in the limelight of being a public persona, right?
Yeah.
See you next time at the Brave Table.